Today's lesson is topic 4.5, subtracting across zeros. The objective for today is that you will be able to subtract numbers with zeros up to the thousands place. Be sure to write down the title in your notes. The problem we're looking at today is the Empire State Building is 1,200 feet tall. The Citigroup Center is also in New York and is 915 feet tall. How much taller is the Empire State Building than the Citigroup Center? Just like in our previous lesson, the phrase how much taller is one thing than the other. That is what is kind of my clue to know that I'll be subtracting. So when I'm looking at this problem, in your notes, I want you to write down the two different heights that we are looking at. We're looking at 1,250 feet and 915 feet. In the piece of paper that you should have glued in your notes, and if you did not, you can create this chart simply in your notes. Just make sure you have labeled all of your different place values at the top. We're going to go ahead and input each one of our numbers in this chart for this problem. We wrote down 1,250 because that is our larger number. We'll be subtracting from that number, and it goes in the second line, the middle line in this chart. So I have 1,250 minus 915. 915, exactly as you see it. Okay, as we go through this problem, we are going to be subtracting across a zero. Whenever I have a zero, I have to go next door and borrow, just like I was doing previously. But reminder that it's not just a 1, it's a 10. So my 0 over here would become a 10. So I end up with 10 minus 5, giving me my 5. You should also be solving this in your notes as well. 4 minus 1, giving me 3. I cannot do 2 minus 9, so again I have to borrow, making this a 12. So then I end up with 12 minus 9, giving me 3. My answer ends up being 335 feet taller. In your notes, we're going to go ahead and solve another one that would be a lot more zeros. So go ahead and write down this problem. 3,000 minus 673. Today, we are looking at subtracting across more than one zero. Well, if I look at this one, I've got to go all the way to where I actually have a number. So if I see all of these zeros like this, I know I can't borrow from a zero. I have to go where there actually is a number. So I start by borrowing from this one. That makes it a 2. This next one become a 10, but I'm still borrowing. So now it becomes a 9. To make this one a 10, still not ready yet. So now I change that 10 to a 9. And in my very last column, I have a 10. So I'd be doing 10 minus 3, giving me 7. My middle column, I've got 9 minus 7, which would give me 2. And then 9 minus 6, giving me 3. And 2 minus 0, which stay a 2. Be sure that you check your answers using inverse operations. When I check my answer using inverse operation, I will make sure that I have my 2,327. Remember, inverse operations are the opposite. So if I started with subtraction, I'm now doing addition. We'll add it to whatever it was that I was subtracting in hopes of getting my final answer of what I started with. So 7 plus 3 would be 10. 7 plus 2 would be 9 plus 1, giving me 10. Carrying those numbers over, 6 plus 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. And carrying that number gives me a 3. So using my inverse operations, I was able to check my answer. The next problem I want you to write down in your notes as well. 8,090 minus 1,254. Again, I have to start off borrowing right away. So in my first column, I've got my 0. So I borrow from the 9, and the 9 becomes an 8. My 0 is now a 10, so I can do 10 minus 4, giving me 6. 8 minus 5, which would give me 3. Oops. And then again, I've got a 0, so I have to borrow again, making that one a 10. So 10 minus 2 would be 8. And then 7 minus 1, which would be 6. So I end up with 6,836. To check with inverse operations, I always start with this answer. And I have 6,836 plus whatever it was that I was subtracting in hopes of getting that same answer I started with. And for me, I checked my answer using inverse operation. The next ones you're going to solve in your notes on your own. I would like for you to solve numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 and check your answers with inverse operation. So just like last time, I do expect to see your answer and what you get when you check using inverse operation. But again, you only need to solve questions 1, 2, 3, and 4.